And so Jacob says, please bring them to me, and I will bless them. He's going to declare, like a patriarchal blessing upon his grandsons that he's adopting as his own sons. And it says in verse 10, now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. Then Joseph brought them near to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And I love what he says in verse 11. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but in fact, God has also shown me your offspring. As Jacob embraced his grandsons, he looked at Joseph and said, I didn't think I'd ever see your face again. And here I am holding my grandsons, my grandchildren. I think Jacob was just blown away here by the goodness of God and what God had done and bringing this all together, where he's reunited with his son Jacob, and now he sees his own grandchildren from Joseph. And he's just blessed by the Lord. And so verse 12, so Joseph brought them from beside his knees, and look what it says, and Joseph bowed down with his face to the earth. Now this is a biblical practice I would love to see come back into the church, where your children bow down before you. How wonderful would that be? You come home from work, kids are there at the door to bow down before you. Go into the kitchen to make a sandwich, kids bow down. When you get up to go into the kitchen, that'd be great. Actually, what's happening here, and the reason Joseph bows down, is because Jacob is about to give Joseph the birthright and declare this patriarchal blessing and pass the blessing on to his sons. This is actually mentioned in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 21, if you're taking notes. It says, by faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and worshipped leaning on the top of his staff. And that's what we have here. And so verse 13, and what Joseph did, because his dad is old and can't see very well, Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. Manasseh is the older son, the firstborn. Typically the oldest son, receives the blessing and the birthright. And so Joseph, what he does, because of his dad's age and everything, he attempts to arrange his sons so that his dad puts his right hand on Manasseh. By the way, if you're taking notes, this is the first time we see in the Bible a blessing with the laying on of hands. And it's a practice that continues on into the New Testament, something that we still do as part of the church today. And so verse 14, then Israel stretched out his right hand, and he laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his hand knowingly or on purpose, for Manasseh was the firstborn. So Jacob crosses his hands, and he puts his right hand on the younger son, Ephraim, instead of the oldest son. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this kind of switcheroo here with the birth order and the blessing. In fact, we've seen it quite a bit already in the book of Genesis. Cain was the firstborn, but Abel received the blessing. Ishmael was the firstborn, but Isaac received the blessing. Esau was the firstborn, but it was Jacob, who's here in this scene, who was blessed. Reuben is replaced here with Joseph. Later in the book of Exodus, Aaron was the firstborn, but Moses was blessed. God chose David to be king, the youngest son of Jesse, over all of David's brothers. Right? So we see this throughout the Bible, where the Lord often likes to choose the lesser over the greater, or the last over the first, or the weak over the strong, or the foolish over the wise, or the nobodies over the important people. So there's hope for us, right? That's good news for us. The Bible tells us the reason that God does this is so that He gets all the glory. So nobody looks and says, well, of course He chose him, or of course He chose her. No, it's, why did He choose him? Why did He choose her? Look at verse 15. Now he declares a blessing on Joseph, and I want you to see what he says here. And he blessed Joseph and said, look what he says, God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from evil, bless the lads. Let my name be named upon them and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. Jacob declares in this prayer, God has fed me all my life long to this day. Literally, God has been my shepherd all my life. Your translation might even say that. God has been my shepherd all my life. He's cared for me. He's provided for me. He's guided me. The Lord has been my shepherd all my days. He's been my good shepherd. You know, many of us here, I know you could pray the same thing. You could say the same thing. Jesus has been my good shepherd all the days of my life, and all of the trials and tribulations and difficulties and highs and lows and valley of death and all of it. He's been a good shepherd to me.